Hello, and welcome to this Breach Debrief series on Nissan North America. I'll be your host today, Hanan Al-Ibn. So today we are talking about the breach in just over a month ago, January 16th, where Nissan North America data leaked. The reason for this was rather simple. Nissan provided one of its vendors with information about its customers. This information that was given to the third party vendor was used for testing and for developing software. The problem was that this third party vendor, while testing this on real live data, uploaded the code that was being used with the real data to a repository, such as for GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket. There's many providers of online repositories. Now, this is perfectly okay. This is accepted. The problem was that this repository was not closed. It did not require any access, any special access controls. You did not need to put in your password to enter. You didn't need to be a company employee. Anybody in the whole wide world with access to internet could see this repository. And therefore, that's what happened. People saw the repository and were able, for that matter, to download the repository and to see what's in the repository. And as we said, part of what was in the repository was sensitive data of Nissan North America, specifically customer data. And the data that was exposed there for everybody to see was close to 18,000 customer records, including full names, Nissan account numbers, and other sensitive information. Providing a supplier of yours, a third-party vendor with real customer data, is not the best of practice, but there could be legitimate reasons to do so. The question is then, so how do you keep that data safe? How do you keep that data secure? Let's look at the example of GitHub has an ability to decide if a repository is public or not, or is it private for that matter. And this could be controlled rather easily. It's a simple configuration. And what's important is that whoever's in charge of security in GitHub app owners to constantly be aware what repositories of those are publicly open and what are not, to make sure that those that are open should really be open, and those that are not open should stay that way. It should stay private uh, at all time. Now you might want to ask yourself why would somebody want to make why would this third party vendor have an open repository? Well, what's the purpose of it? Shouldn't all repositories be private? Well, the answer is not always. Companies like to use a lot of open source code, and it could be required by the license of the code that they're using, this open source code, to republish it in a public manner. It could be also that this vendor wants to share back to the community, wants to give code that they develop that's not sensitive, so other people can use as a thank you for this wonderful code community, which allows all modern development of technology and the internet as we know it today. But even in such cases, it needs to be very clear what repository is public, and there you should only have data which is not sensitive and is meant to be seen by everybody with internet access, compared to repositories which are closed, which are private, which have sensitive information that should not be leaked. So as you can see here, it's a very easy configuration to control. But if you have hundreds of repositories, it might be very difficult to keep track of what are the repositories that are open and should they be. So let's move now to an example where we can see here in the Adaptive Shield platform a security check for GitHub, right? We just saw the screenshot from GitHub beforehand. Here is now the corresponding security check, which we have. As you can see, it's called public repositories, and it'll show you a list of all repositories which are open, which are public. As you can see in this case, there's one affected out of 4. That means that in my GitHub, I have 4 repositories, 3 of them private, and 1 of them is public. Now, it could be that this one is meant to be public, and then it's okay. And then for me to keep track of it and know that I did it, I can easily mark it and click, dismiss, and give a reason and say that it needs to be open, needs to be open, right? And then we can keep track of it. And then we know that we reviewed it, and no longer will this repository affect the security check. But if now one of the other 3 repositories, suddenly somebody by accidentally makes them public, from private to public, this security check will fail and we'll get an alert on that new one popping up. So this is a very easy way for customers of Adaptive Shield to keep track of what are the public repositories, make sure that they really need to be open, and be alerted if indeed somebody changes a private repository to become a public repository. So this is an easy way, keep track and be aware of what your repositories are, which ones are public, which ones are private, and hopefully prevent data leakage through repositories and not through by accidentally classifying a private repository as a public one. Now, what I demonstrated today is, as shown here, GitHub, but this is true for any type of online repository which you might have, as I said, whether it's now GitLab, whether it's Bitbucket, whatever you use can be covered and is relevant and has the same types of mechanisms deciding if it's private or public that should be monitored. I hope this made sense. I hope this will help you better understand the breach and how it could be prevented. Feel free to contact me by email if you have any questions. Thank you very much.